Hi everybody, it's Chris Frame here and welcome to the final voyage of the Pacific Jewel. I sailed aboard the ship from Melbourne to Fremantle in February of 2019 as a guest speaker talking about the history of P&O and the Pacific Jewel's history with the company. It was a fantastic voyage and a great way to see the ship one last time before she leaves the P&O Australia fleet to head to India and start a new life as a cruise ship there. So let's first have a look at the cabins. We had a cabin on deck 9 and it was an outside cabin. I was really impressed with the spaciousness of this room and also the way it was appointed. There was a large window, a writing desk, plenty of space within the cabin, a walk-in robe and a shower that you could actually fit inside, which was quite a novel experience for somebody who's 6'5". It was actually nice to be able to stand underneath the shower without having to duck. Another little delight about this room was that every day they would bring us complimentary canapes, even though we hadn't asked for them. It was nice to just receive them as a little snack before dinner. Also, there was a fresh bowl of fruit delivered and fresh bottles of water for us to have complimentary in our cabin. We embarked quite late in the afternoon, so it wasn't long until the ship was ready to depart. She set sail on time at 4 p.m. Back inside and out of the wind, but there's plenty of opportunities to see the ocean go past thanks to Pacific Jewel's large picture windows. After dinner in the waterfront restaurant, there was an opportunity to have a walk around the ship and explore the top deck area as the sun set. The whole top deck area is illuminated using these different coloured lights, and the central structure that you can see there is left over from when the ship used to host circus activities, but is now used as part of the Edge, or at least until the ship's retirement. The next morning, I had an opportunity to have a bit more of a look around the ship, and this is the Dome, Pacific Jewel's coffee lounge. The ship was designed by Renzo Piano and was designed to look like a dolphin from the outside, and the dome sits in that forward structure just above the bridge that has that crowned dome shape that gives it its dolphin-like appearance. This space is also used as a yoga studio with a small stage at the front of the room. You can see the decor that was used here is quite traditional, and it benefited from her recent refurbishment, which added an extra sense of ambience to the space. Back out on deck, and here's a view of Pacific Jewel's funnel and the open deck area where the swimming pools are located. Just another look there at that circus structure, which, as I mentioned, had been used as part of the Edge, the onboard entertainment program. The ship also has an outer walk-around promenade on the top deck, which is clad in faux lawn, and it gives an opportunity for a great view over the side of the ship. And here we are at the very front of the ship, on a viewing platform that gives you a great view of the bridge and also over the bow of Pacific Jewel. It's accessible from a small, discreet door located off one of the passenger decks. And as you can also see, all of the decking is done in teak wood. Pacific Jewel was first put into service in 1990 for Princess Cruises as the Crown Princess, and you can still find some reminders of her Princess Cruises career, such as this Princess Cruises logo on the door leading out to the observation platform. Back inside, and here's a walk through the corridors that link the various passenger cabins with the ship's main staircases. Each of the main staircases has both stairs and elevators or lifts. There's also tropical artworks on the wall to give the ship a sense of its cruising destinations that it has been visiting in the South Pacific. This is the view from the top deck as we're making our way across the Great Australian Bight. A little bit of ship's movement, enough to make the swimming pool move around, and there were very few people swimming on the first day of the voyage. We're now back inside the ship and in the main atrium. This area links 3 of the main passenger decks and is also a great space for watching musical recitals, concerts, captain's cocktail reception, and also access to the shops and to the reception desk.
And we also have some interesting ports we're going to visit on our way up there. All this, ladies and gentlemen there, they have promised me to take a really good care of you. If you have any concerns.
That evening, upon returning to our cabin, we found this little towel elephant that kept us company for the rest of the voyage. The next day it was time for some more exploring, and interesting things to note, the vintage of the ship, such as this alarm bell that sounded when the general emergency signal is sounded. There's also a giant jigsaw for people to enjoy, and the shops were starting to get quite empty due to the ship's impending retirement. There was plenty of wayfinding support around the ship, with large maps that made it easy to find your way around. The ship's design is pretty intuitive, with most of the passenger entertainment areas located in central spaces. And so now we're walking towards the forward end of Deck 5, and you can see with the curvature of the ship's hull, the cabins start to stagger inwards towards the bow of the ship. This reminded me quite a lot of the Oriana, which had a similar arrangement at the front of her passenger decks. Back to the shopping area, and you can really see that the shops are starting to get emptied out as the ship approaches the end of her P&O Australia Cruises days.
Mind the door.
Back in the atrium, and this curved staircase links the passenger decks, including access up to the shopping promenade level. The ship's shops are tailored for the Australian market, with popular brands such as Rip Curl and Pandora having their own stores on board. This is the mix bar, which is at the top level of the atrium, and it's also used for cocktail making demonstrations. And here we can see a view over the atrium rail down 2 decks to the lounge on the lower level. We're now heading towards Connections, which is one of the ship's most popular bars. It was busy during the day and night, and was also used for dancing lessons and the ship's quiz. Pacific Jewel also had a casino, which you can see here. It was tucked away on a separate area of the ship, a little bit away from the other public areas on board. and then ascending the staircase back up towards deck 9. I'll admit it, one of our favourite places on board was the New Zealand Natural Ice Cream Bar. It had a great selection of flavours, and the scooping sizes, or the helpings, were huge. There was also a coffee shop on board the ship. It had internet terminals, as well as a selection of cakes, treats and coffee. And on one of the evenings of the cruise, there was a Bianco theme with all of the crew wearing white to a big party on the top deck. An early morning start and a visit to the gym, and I'm proud to say that I used the gym every day on board this cruise. It was well appointed, if not a bit small, and the only downside was that there wasn't any rowing machines, which is my favourite piece of equipment to use. But there was a great community here, people who are up before 8 AM having a workout before the day's activities. And today's activity was a visit to Busselton, Pacific Jewel's penultimate Australian port. The ship made its way slowly towards the port and anchored due to being too big to fit into the main harbour. The tendering service took people from Pacific Jewel to the famous Busselton jetty. Back on board and heading back out to sea, destination Fremantle, took the opportunity to check out the ship's P&O Edge activities program. This included a great view of the funnel from the aft end of the ship, near where the rock climbing wall and bungee trampoline are located. I thought you might also like to have another just quick look around the cabin. You can see it here towards the end of the voyage. As I mentioned, very spacious, Nice amenities, lots of natural light from that window, and also the fruit and canapes that were brought every day. Just gives you a bit of an idea as to how the room's laid out. And our little elephant friend that kept us company for the voyage. Like all P&O Australia ships, Pacific Jewel had a salt restaurant by celebrity chef Luke Mangan, who also does the menus on board Virgin Australia flights. The interior is decorated in a little bit more refined manner than the other restaurants on board, and this offers a slightly more upmarket cuisine than found elsewhere on the ship. I also thought you might like to see what one of the larger cabins or suites looks like on board. Here's a balcony room, and you can see it has a separate seating area, a couch and the chairs there, a balcony, the bed made up as a queen, and the decor has been modernized slightly compared to the room that we were in. Another alternative dining venue is a Shell and Bones. It's a seafood grill. And you can also see here the selection of the buffet restaurant on the top deck of the ship. It was our preferred dining venue for all meals except dinner. And its name is the Pantry, so instead of being a buffet, as you would expect it, it's actually broken up into different areas where you can find different types of food, and everything's served to you over the counter. So it's sort of P&O Cruises Australia's take on the casual eating experience. This is the Orient Bar, which is one of the bars on board the ship. By the name of the room, I was expecting it to have a theme of the Orient Line, given that Orient Line and P&O merged, but it actually had no resemblance to Orient Line in its interior decor, with just the name the Orient being a hint to that heritage between P&O and the Orient Line. But it was a nice space to have a drink and watch live entertainment. This is just walking back towards the connections. Gives you a bit of an extra view as to how this room was set up. You can see there's comfortable seating, there's also the table seats there. And this is the only time I saw this room without hundreds of passengers in it. This of course was whilst we were alongside in Fremantle. The Marquee is the ship's show lounge, is also the location for the lectures, and this is where I spoke during my 3 talks on board, one on each of the sea days. It has a split level arrangement with all the seats offering the best views of the stage and minimal obstructions, with only a few pillars throughout the area. And so I hope you enjoyed this farewell tour of Pacific Jewel. I'd never sailed on Pacific Jewel before, and I must say I was very pleasantly surprised. I found her to be a really warm and inviting ship with a friendly ambience and given that the ship was retiring, a happy crew. I would definitely sail on board her sister ship, Pacific Dawn, and other ships of the P&O Cruises Australia fleet. It was an absolute pleasure to lecture on board, and I found that the responses to my talks about the history of P&O was very positive, with many people interested in the long and illustrious history of P&O in Australia. So let me know your thoughts of Pacific Jewel. Have you sailed on her before? Did you enjoy the experience? I'd love to hear what you have to say in the comments below. If you like this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up, share it, and once again, thanks for watching. See you on board next time.